of basically not burning down the house while cleaning up the house. That's going to be a very tough balancing act.
Which is why we question from the very start the way this was calibrated. There's nothing wrong with revealing this. It was the way it was done. And I think in my heart of heart, the way it was done, because it was a PR stunt, no, at the start, with not thinking that it would open a Pandora's box of so many things, no? Okay. Well, that's water under the bridge, no? As I was saying, there's once you open the Pandora's box, there's no turning back, and we have to go forward, no? And the way forward is, the report today. And I had just to be transparent, I had an interview with the new ombudsman, Boying Namulia, who told me about, harrowing experiences in his life and the need for him to leave a legacy. When you hear him, I think BBM and the ombudsman are clear. They mean business about corruption. I got a perspective from them. They say what they mean and they mean what they say. And what they said yesterday for Boying, Ombudsman Boying and the president today is that people will go to jail. They have given a number of people. They have said maybe some senators might even go to jail. So while I know it will not appease the angry crowd who want blood, no, our surveys are clear. People are very angry. 60% are very angry. A big chunk of that, more than 60% of millennials and Gen Zs, they have the highest, the beyond the national average, who are very angry and want three things. Now, one is they want accountability. Two, they want people to go to jail. And three, they want restitution. So that's what the surveys are saying. They're not asking for a cleansing of the DPWs. That's number four. They're not asking for better flood control projects. That's number five. The top three are about justice and accountability. And so the government has to perform, no, or else they will disappoint again. And when you look at the new trust and approval numbers of the president and vice president in Octa, they all went down. And not just went down, they went down drastically. So this is the first time we've seen BBM go down to low 50s. At the rate we're going, we're not very positive about it recovering anytime soon. Why? Because at least based on his pronouncements today, his the cases will only be filed, okay, towards the end of November, early part of December. So it will take time for people to be appeased, no? And so we don't expect that the numbers
Walang
will.
Christmas gift. We're not expecting some year-ender.
And he made an announcement today. That
Yeah,
will be the
yeah.
Christmas gift to the people, but it won't be a Christmas gift to those who will go to jail, no, obviously. But what I'm saying is that these numbers, these trust and approval numbers, will find I feel it will be very hard to see recovery in these numbers if the administration does not perform. And it has to perform on a range of issues, no? The survey says it has to deal with inflation, now corruption, the issue, of course, of wages. Okay, and these are very complex issues that I feel the executive alone cannot resolve. It has to have a very good coalition with Congress. But how is that coalition now? You just said it right. That coalition is fractured at the moment, and I don't know how that coordination between the executive and the legislature will happen, and I hope it happens because it will benefit the Filipino people, especially when we get a better budget now. No, 51 billion was slashed. Tama ba? Yeah, 50 billion was slashed from the DPWH budget. And I just heard very good Senator Win Gatchalian, very good Senator Pia Cayetano talking about how it's going to be reallocated to health and education. So we're hoping that that coalition of the willing in the House and the Senate will continue. But I don't know how long that coalition will continue if there's so much pressure, no? So much political noise happening. So this is a complex thing. So the president has to first make the first step. So unlike Gary, I'm hopeful that the first step is putting some people to jail. But the long-term solution, as you all know, is institutional reform. And we're hoping the initial steps that undertaken by Secretary Vince Dizon to improve how bidding is undertaken, the monitoring system, and including no reducing the cost by 50% of overpriced DPWH projects will do the job. What we all know is that this scandal, this expose of the president has cost the third quarter as far as our GDP is concerned. It has cost him politically. So we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's trying his best. He's risking it all. And from that perspective, I'm saying that he probably means what he says and says what he means, that he wants corruption to be resolved in some fashion, no? At least make the first steps, no? So I think he's trying very hard. And I think there's a consciousness now in the administration. It's not anymore important to be popular. They're not running anyway, and they don't have an heir. Okay, what's important now is not popular to be popular, but to do the right thing. And I think that's what the president has made a statement about. I'm going to do the right thing, whether it will cost me politically, it will cost some temporary slowdown in the economy, but this is the right path to go.
Din Gary,
Hey, guys.
yeah, thank you for that, Prof. Ranjit. But Din Gary, hindi kaya may risk na maging lame duck na si Marcos na he might soon lose even the ability to steer this initiative in the right direction, assuming that's really his intention. Mukhang nag-freeze yata. Nahirapan niya. I hope that was not a tough question. Balikan na lang muna kita, Din, Prof.
He is a
Ranjit.
late,
Yeah,
Richard
I
is,
think,
is a late down president
I
now.
think, yeah,
Alam mo yun?
nag-freeze
because
talaga
because
siya.
of the expose, I think the president's now, to a great extent, I think he is in that lame duck state now. He's very reliant on his very thin coalition in the Senate. And but we're hoping that everybody works together. It's not about Marcos or Duterte anymore. It's really about how we can move forward from this. Where we may be the shining example of democracy here with all its flaws, no? But now I think we're a laughing stock as far as this issue of corruption is concerned. So much, has been, exposed both locally and internationally, and it's destroyed business confidence of both foreign investors and investors locally. So we really have to show something for all this suffering we're now experiencing because of this movement that we've started. And I'm saying this, I'm supportive of this move, but it will be painful. It will get a little harder for us before it gets better.
Yeah, I mean, we're walking through the valley of tears, so we have to do it properly. Din Gary, I was asking you before nag-freeze ka, I was asking kung lame duck na ba si BBM, or is there risk for him to become lame duck before he can steer this, get us across the line, kumbaga.
Well, I think if BBM managed to create this impactful decision by December, especially by jailing what he mentioned earlier, those who were involved in the graft and corruption cases, it represents two things. It can create that, somehow there'll be a fear. The president is very serious, so he is using really his executive power to ensure that he's building now a legacy, no, during his term. But on the other hand, it can also, as mentioned by Prof. Ranjit earlier, no, it will also create a backlash, no, from his allies as well as from the opposition, especially the Dutertes, who are capitalizing this flood control project that's back to you. I mean, kasi tingin nila at the end of the day, the person should be blamed here is the president because he signs the budget and he allow the leadership of the Congress, both of the House, especially the House leadership, no, to did this mess in the flood control. So, yun nga yung problema rin talaga itong kampanya na ito, no? Remember when we talk about this when it was launched, no? It's treading in a very dangerous, no, line. So, uh, we're still hindi man ako, hindi mas, I still hoping for the best pa rin naman ako in a sense. I recognize that there are some changes, some developments in the conduct of this campaign, but yung dulo nito hindi ko pa rin alam ano yung magiging dulo nito no? That
Walang exit plan.
yun nga sasabi ko, tayo as a student and professors of political science, public administration, so we always look at the end of the day, yung power, no? So how power, for example, now be contested and controlled at the end of this investigation? Who will now holds the power? So depende yan sa support syempre ng public and at the same time, yung strong political base. I don't know on the part ng Malacanang kung there is an organizing component from their end to consolidate especially a broad group of civil society and aligned people who are really into the anti-corruption campaign. So sana may ginagawa din ito ng pamahalaan ng BBM administration, and that might help to provide some foundation to his leadership. Kasi at the end of the day, malaking public support dito Kasi, di ba, sa mga insidente, halimbawa sa UP Games, sa Lasal or Ateneo, ang taas ng mga sentimiento ng mga tao, especially during the halftime, no? Yung pagchachant nila ng anti-corruption chanting, ang dami. So, we observe this. Kaya importante how are this consolidated na hindi lang ito simpleng campaign but really part of a political base building outside of the traditional elites, outside of the political families that can generate a potential force in 2028 at the same time support this administration's anti-corruption campaign at the end of this PBM's administration in 2028. So yan dapat din ang ginagawa para maiwasan natin na yung pagiging lame duck. Kasi ang trabaho sana yan
Right.
ng mga tao sa Malacanang. I hope they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to
I,
end on that point because it's very important. But before we go there, puntahan natin to kasi itong November, may expectation na magkakaroon ng mga malawakan na rally. We know that there are pro-Duterte elements, including major religious groups who are supposed to come together. Some would say, some are smelling blood because the president is on shaky ground. Some would say, no, they're actually desperate that there could be next. Kumbaga, use it or lose it ang situation dito. Prof. Ranjit, pag-usapan natin itong. And in fact, there are discussions that including someone who used to be the spokesman of BBM is now under, I don't know, surveillance or something for potentially destabilizing activities, etc. Like, how serious should we take that?
I think there have been serious attempts no, at pushing this so-called withdrawal of support initiative. Our contacts in the armed forces have been informing me that it's a serious attempt. But our surveys are pretty clear, no? In the third quarter, we asked everyday Filipinos, would they still choose democracy even if it has so many problems? 80% said yes. Okay. And when asked about military intervention, should the military intervene in politics? Resolve political questions. 70% said no. And by the way, the armed forces, one of the most professional organizations in the country, very well after the church, the most organized institution is really the armed forces. Better organized than any bureaucracy we have any other example of bureaucracy we have in government. They're very organized. They have surveys. They actually commission surveys.
Service from Okta.
Yeah, we're open about that. That's how professional the organization is. They find out how people think, and the basic finding was one basic argument was that, our basic finding was, people support the armed forces. Their trust and approval is high, not just because the armed forces is there during disasters and they see that the public service institution, not just because they're protecting, their professional organization protecting our own sovereignty, our territory, but third, because they're professional and apolitical. It's largely apolitical nature of that people find, is one of the reasons why they trust the armed forces as an institution. Ano yung first reaction, no, after the flood control fiasco? Who's gonna build the bridges? Pagawa na lang sa AFP yan. Pagawa na lang sa... That's how people think of our armed forces now. And that's how they think about themselves now. they've had history is, history has taught them if they intervene in politics, in the end, they'll be shooting each other. And then be utilized by a politician, and in this case, a geopolitical player. They know all of these things, and they're very clear about their role. Their role is to stay out of politics, to protect the people, to protect the constitution. And I'm accessible to them, eh. And they're very clear. And what they disdain actually is politicians trying to, force them, convince elements within the armed forces to become more politicized, no, and play a more political role. But that's the armed forces is clear. So with all of those things, no, I think to a great extent, this movement, that this anti-government movement has, they were planning 3 days. Now it's just one day. Now, and we have to give it, no, to these religious groups. If it's their constitutional right to protest, and the Catholic Church and other groups are going to protest at the end of the month, no, and it's important. Gary was right. This can turn into an advantage for the administration if they actually go into organizing. This anger can be channeled into creating a movement, a kilusan for change, no? Of which right now there's no leader, but it can be government, eh, that can be the spearhead for this, eh. And the organizing part, yeah, Gary's correct, no? I think government should take it more seriously and connect with these organizations. Bring people back in to the governance nexus, no, or framework, because people can help. For example, very constructive. Let people's organizations monitor government projects. How hard is that, di ba? Di ba? How let people come into the budget process at the very start, so we don't have all these problems, di ba? That the budget is being allocated this and that for this and that, no. So I think Gary is completely correct. The government's missing an important opportunity here to be the spearhead of this of building a more constructive, no, you know uh, movement, no, built up on or built up with people's organizations, all focusing on one thing: trying to improve governance, trying to end corruption. Sayang yung opportunity kasi galit yung mga tao. Let's I mean, the government can redirect that to something more productive, which is, bantayan yung ating mga infrastructure projects, bantayan ating mga politiko, isumbong mo kay presidente. So I think tama si Gary doon, eh. Kulang sa organizing. Kulang sa pagtingin, no, na yung value nitong mga kilusan, yung kilusan na nabubuo. So nawawala sa kanilang kamay, and then obviously who's in charge now? The people, there's a segment, alam naman natin kung sino to, mga to. Now they're taking over that movement and saying, no, this movement should not go towards something constructive. It should go towards withdrawal of support. So this is a missed opportunity for the administration. I think they should take advantage of it.
I'll go back to Dean Gary. Thanks for that, Prof. Ranjit. I mean, pag-usapan natin yan because people are saying, is BBM even in a position para gumawa ng ganitong interface with the progressive liberal civil society? Baka dahil malapit na siya maging lame duck. Baka dahil yung isa, takot sila na just being close to BBM might, undermine their credibility. Baka mahirap talaga to put them together. Do you think there are conditions for some sort of a tactical, temporary interface to happen there? I think clearly there's going to be a lot of discomfort on both sides because we're talking about very people who have been attacking Marcoses and the very people that the Marcoses have been at cross, purposes with for quite some time. So is it kind of a tactical coalition even workable? Is even desirable? Is it the only game in town? Given that the alternative would be return of the Dutertes to Malacanang by all, or something even worse, probably a revolutionary government.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, to be honest, my revolutionary self is becoming more pragmatic in a sense that I have to coalesce with a what we call a neo-Gramscian approach, a cross-class alliance, just to ensure that at the end of the day, we will prevent the major challenge in the Philippine democracy. That will be the Dutertes. So I think it's will be prudent, for example, for people who really find a common ground. No, hindi natin sinasabi na we are simply uh, natin, no, parang how to call this, no, sa simbahan ay pinapatawad na natin kaagad. May absolution na tayo sa mga Marcoses. Hindi naman ganoon. We're still looking at the problem in this government, especially nga yung naging budget, yung kakulangan, for example, in addressing the basic social services. But at the end of the day, meron kang existential problem na kinakaharap natin And that will be this coming 2028 election. So we have to join force to ensure that we will prevent that existential threat. No? Sa akin, ano yan mabigat yan mabigat yung ganyang challenge na kakaharapin natin. So, working with various sectors in a cross-class alliance, I think is very important kasi it will be a number game Saka tayo magdebate. No, well, in fact, pwede naman tayo magdebate along the way. But the point is, maliwanag dapat yung terms ng pagsasamahan ng mga tao. That's why I will call for what we call this a broadened, whether we like it, a big tent or various tents or whatever that is. No? Uh, but this will carry some hope no, to hold the line against further abuse in our institutions, weaponizing the law against every one of us who will be, you know, opposing, for example, draconian rule or autocratic rule in the coming years. So yun pa yung mga challenge na nakikita ko na
So Din,
importante
you think
harapin.
people
So
will understand that? Like, yung mga galit na tao na nawawala ng pag-asa, don't you think mawala rin sila ng tiwala sa mga liberal progressive groups if they're seen as too close or too accommodating of the incumbent regime out of fear of the return of Duterte or something worse? Like, anong mga
well,
dapat red lines or anong dapat mga reassurances na pwede nilang gawin para hindi mangyari yan?
Kaninang umaga may binabasa akong article about yung pagkapanalo ni Zoran Mandami sa New York sa mayor. Pero ang dami pwedeng matutunan For example, no, hindi diniscuss ni Zoran yung pagiging immigrant niya, yung pagiging Muslim niya, yung pagiging minority niya, but he simply called to action. Ano ba dapat yung action natin? So I think we need to offer concrete actions to the people. Yan nga, kung kailangan may makulong, merong reforma halimbawa. Tingin ko yung ginagawa ng DPWH ngayon, no, yung uh, making sure na yung prices ng mga ng construction materials, ng equipment ay really at cost. Yung dating paraan nila na may plus 30%, binabago nila. So, yan yun Tapos, syempre nga kung may makukulong, then that will be a very a good opportunity for this government to some extent, a little redeem of themselves. And for example, sabi nga kung magiging strong yung ating yung mga ating mga anti-corruption grabster like yung ombudsman, no? Kung magiging sincero halimbawa si Ombudsman Remulla to ensure that a fair chances of people who be jailed will be given due process unlike in the past na walang ginawa ang past ombudsman. So yan yung kailangan naman rin ng mga tao ngayon At hindi lang marinig, makita talaga nila na merong konkretong aksyon silang makikita no, from this administration.
Thank you for that, Din Gary. To close this episode, Prof. Ranjit. So, how do you make sure walang kiss of death na mangyari dito? Because many people would argue time is on the sides of the Pinks. They just have to ride this out. Hayaan mo yung dalawa na yan, magsalpuhan. Come 2028, either it's Lenny, either it's someone from the progressive side. It looks like there's that school of thought. The other school of thought is that just because takot tayo na bumalik si Sara, we shouldn't take blind eye tayo sa mga nangyaring kababalagan under the Marcoses or the history of the Marcoses. There's some healthy debates on what should be the path forward for the so-called third force. I mean, do we even have a third force? I mean, what is your read of this, Prof.
I
Ranjit?
I don't know if we have a third force. It doesn't seem apparent in the surveys. Number two, I think that's emblematic of the problem of the anti-Duterte forces. Everybody thinks in terms of family names, families, small things, no, like our group, theirs, no, when in fact, Dean Gary was right. We have to elevate the discussion to ideas. We're defending liberal politics, whatever is left of it in the country. And trust me, Richard, tactical coalitions are the only way for liberal politics in this country to remain viable, especially in a fragmented democracy like ours. Without such coalitions, now liberal politics, I should say, risks fragmentation, irrelevance, and eventually captured by illiberal majorities. So, forming tactical alliances built on shared like ideas like shared democratic values, institutional reform like anti-corruption, pragmatic objectives, uh, it becomes not just a strategy but a necessity when you're faced with the complete opposite, no, a authoritarian populist movement that, frankly speaking, we can't afford to have again reign in our country, no. So that's one way to look at it, no. We have to go beyond looking at things from the level of families, dynasties, and start thinking of bigger things. Like, how do we save our democracy? How do we broaden and deepen it? And when we talk about ideas, it's easier. I mean, to some extent, it might be easier to build tactical coalitions based on consensus. That this is the future we want for the country. Let's bring in all those, the coalition of the willing, who want to push this forward. Otherwise, we know what the results of the survey are at this point. I know they're premature. I know they will change, but right now there's a complete opposite of liberal politics, now very strongly entrenched, a very strong coalition in place. And for them, they just have to sit, pretty now. And in fact, their tactic naman is very simple. Let's just wait for the administration to implode, and then we'll take over in 2028, as I told you 6 months ago. Okay, but then again, it's really not up to the administration. It's a broader coalition, as Dean Gary was talking about, the Gramscian way of looking at things, di ba? This is a grand coalition of people who believe in a particular worldview that liberal politics should be defended, should be sustained. And the only way forward is to do tactical coalitions because it's the pragmatic way forward. It's now not just a strategy, it's a necessity. If we don't do it, now automatically it's almost a mathematical reality that some people will prevail. But if all of us come together, okay, I think there's a way forward. There is an alternative.
On that very less ambiguous note, kasi kanina kay Enrile, very ambiguous, medyo hedging tayo, but dito talaga nag-real talk tayong lahat. I think we really have to be honest about, I mean, the numbers are very clear, right? We know who's gonna take advantage or take over if ever there's a complete change in regime or administration. So this is just a hard reality that suppose the third force is gonna face, and accordingly they have to make political calculation. And politics is the art of the possible, right? We can have fantastical debates about, an alternative universe, but we're not there. We are where we are. But there's still a very good opportunity that if the third force or emerging third force play their card well, they'll be in a position to be in power in 2028. And then they can really do big things when they want. But for now, I think sequencing and prioritization is very important. On that note, thank you
Yeah.
very much, Dean Gary. And also Prof. Ranjit.
Thank you, Chad.
Looking
Yeah.
forward to have more conversations. Balikan natin to after. Tingnan natin kung magpi-people power next week or something. Hindi na pala 3 days, 1 day lang. Baka kulang sa budget. Kulang sa budget. Medyo
So let's
kinapos.
wait and see
All
what
right.
will
Wait and see,
happen.
wait and see.
Yeah, and I'll give you guys
Okay.
1 month and then I'll return to you on your analysis of legacy of Enrile. Sige, let's have 1 month of reflection kasi there's a lot of content
Ah,
material to deal with.
pero maganda yung juxtaposition mo ng what you call this Kissinger century and Enrile
Yeah, the
century.
Enrile
No, but
Central, call
It's
it
a very
the
good. You should
but it's
write that
also
sa column mo
guys.
sa
I
Inquirer.
mean, let's be fair. I mean, our condolences. We go out to the
yeah,
family.
with all
Of
due
course, of
respect.
course.
Lost
Yeah.
here. Family just lost the patriarch, and our condolences go out to the Israeli family. So sans the critique for this time, okay?
Let's
Let's
after a
come
month,
to
let's have
Yeah,
a
we
okay.
proper
offer
conversation.
prayers to the family
Yeah,
with the late President,
Senate
late
President.
Senate President Enrile.
Yeah.
That's where
Thank you.
talagang ganun talaga tayo mga Pinoy, di ba? Empathy always. God bless. Talk to you soon. Salamat.